right, here, Partio Logic. I've never had a guest on my show, and I thought it'd be appropriate that my first guest would be my husband. I
Husband.
look huge compared to you because you're sitting back. Should we keep it like this?
No,
No, scoot
No,
back.
you scoot back. Hi, everybody.
Okay, no, he has no idea what I'm going to ask him. I don't really either. I do have my one question for sure, and I usually try to keep this around 5 to 10 minutes.
Mhm.
But so one thing that I think is really interesting is a lot of your students will ask you, because he's a high school teacher. You teach what?
History and government. Junior history, senior government.
And you've been teaching for how long?
27 years.
And a lot of times his students will come up to him and say, Mr. Lee, I don't even know what party you are, if you're a Republican or Democrat, which is kind of nice because he's really what's really frustrating with which is great about him, but it's also really frustrating, is he's the voice of logic and reason sometimes, and sometimes I don't want him to be. Sometimes I want him to be like
a devil advocate. Always.
He's very good at, like, even when he agrees with somebody, being the devil's advocate on the other side. What do you say to them when they say?
I tell them if they ask point blank.
Okay.
But like, for example, just a week or two ago, a student came into my classroom early. It was before school. She's sitting around and she goes, Mr. Lee, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. She goes, are you conservative or liberal? And I just said, why are you asking? She goes, well, some of us students last night were talking about it, and we thought maybe conservative, but a lot of the stuff you say we think is kind of liberal. And so I said, well, I am more conservative. I identify more libertarian. That's probably why you hear both sides, but yeah.
All right. So, what you've been teaching for how many years?
27. Just said that.
Okay. Well, maybe they were. Oh my gosh. What has changed? A lot of people will say, like, kids these days, and
parents.
So you usually say the kids are the same, even though there's like completely like social media, because you
started
teaching in the early 90s.
Kids haven't changed. Just they still want to generally do the least amount of work for the grade they want. Some kids want A's, but they're going to do the littlest they can to get to an A. Not all of them, but most of them. Some want just D's, just credits, C's, B's. They want to communicate with their friends. They want to, take the pass, go to the bathroom, get lost for 5-10 minutes. They want to.
Okay, so then talk about the parents. How are the parents different?
I think it's the expectations of our society. This is so cliche, but I think so many people say it.
And this is a generalization.
This
not all
huge
teachers,
generalization.
Not all parents.
There's this gross generalization that we talk about, but it's the parents' expectations or schools' expectations of what is participation culture. It's not the kids; it's our expectations that have changed. We've lowered our bar. There is a lot of that. We don't have huge expectations as a school anymore about what to really teach or learn. It's more about getting the kids. Oh, well, you're gonna get me fired. No, I'm just kidding. It's really hard. It's really complicated.
Speaking for
no,
the
I know.
district.
No, it's me after 27 years and what I've seen. But I would say, and that's probably me a little bit too, my expectations have come down a little bit. But I also realize the fine nuances of the knowledge of the information they need isn't there. I mean, we all have our phones. We can look up facts quick. Not that most people do, but it's how to think has changed, and that's really hard to grade. That is extremely hard to really assess how they're thinking, what they're thinking, not so much the information that they need or don't need.
So I'm not gonna make you say anything like this. So, because I will say this, I used to be, for those of you who don't know, I used to be a teacher, and the major difference I see in parenting is when I was a kid, my parents believed whatever the teacher said. Before, there wasn't email when I went to school. There was phone calls. And if a teacher called and I got home, my parents didn't ask me my version of the story. I got in trouble. And then as the years gone on, I know they talked about helicopter parents and how they just hover over and they're constantly, watching over their kids. And now I feel like there's lawnmower parents. I don't know if there's a new one. New term. But lawnmower parents are basically, they're mowing everything down so the kids have no problems. They don't have to deal with anything. The parents deal with all the issues and problems for them. And then when the kid gets in the real world or has dealt with something, so they have to deal with something, they're not prepared for it because their parents have taken care of everything. And I think part of that problem is, like, when I was in high school, I knew when the cross country meets were. I knew where the bands, and I was supposed to tell my parents that. Where now, what? I didn't know when they were.
Yeah, you did. But I believe sometimes.
But how would the parents like?
I think
now,
sometimes we were frustrated because we don't.
Right,
Okay.
right. So I think I understand what I was going to say because sometimes I'm not Okay, you didn't. Now my train of thought. You could have said that at the
Devil's
very
advocate.
end. I know, but you could have said it at the very end and let me speak. Okay, so now you get emails as a parent, and people who are parents understand this. I get emails constantly, usually, about every event, so that my kids aren't responsible. There's not accountability for that. I know what I can go online and see all the classes that my kids take and what their grades are on what assignments, and so there's not accountability. Like my parents didn't know if I had bad grades until they went to conferences or they got a letter in the mail. So sometimes I think there's not a lot of accountability. Now the problem with that is now when you get used to that, then when you aren't given that information, it's frustrating. For example, I love this about them, but like the choir director for my son, is this what you're going to say?
Choir and band for the
Choir
most part.
and band. They say, they give them the information, and the kids are supposed to give us the information, but then my kid isn't very good at doing that. And my daughter was, but my sons are not. Hence this morning, our kids were going on a band trip, and my son was supposed to have a portable music stand. And he calls us at 6:30 a.m. from the high school saying, I need a portable music stand. And we're like, you're SOL. So he has to borrow one from somebody else in a different band. But if the band director had given us a list of everything they needed, emailed it to me, they probably would have had it. So I do understand the good and the bad with that, but I do feel overall that the parents are way too, and I don't want to say involved, I don't think it's bad to be involved in your kid's life, but the parents are trying to take over and trying to find solutions to kids' problems without kids trying to figure it out themselves. Do you see that at all from when you started?
I do, but I teach mostly, like I said, juniors and seniors. My juniors are advanced. That's college credit. My seniors trying to get across the stage. Some want their 4.0, some just want credit to get across the stage. So I see it all. But I don't get a lot of stuff from parents asking a whole lot of questions here and there, and it's usually students that aren't doing well. But I do. I've seen, as a football coach, track coach, whatever, in the 27 years, I believe, if you haven't heard that yet. Coach for.
Okay, so conferences, do you have more people coming or less people? Or
Conferences are absolutely dead. That's because everything's online. I mean, my first year teaching was 94, 95.
Like I said, my parents wouldn't know how I was doing until they went to conferences.
But once we went online and parents can see every grade, every assignment,
and email you and contact you easily. Okay.
That's absolutely part of it. Now, the state of Iowa, just looking yesterday, and a lot of states are looking at doing this, but it appears, it hasn't passed officially yet. Passed the House, went to the Iowa Senate, changed a little bit, now it's back in the Iowa House. We're going to have to put all of our lessons on for a year ahead of time so parents get to see everything we're teaching.
I mean, you're already doing lesson plans, right? You're already doing them, but now now you're going to have to do it.
No, it's this is where I actually, I'm conservative. I'm registered Republican, more libertarian. This is so insane. Obviously, people don't know how education works when they pass these kind of bills.
And we've said this before, because my mom used to be the State Board of Education president, and although I absolutely love her and respect her, there's a lot of people that are trying to implement rules that sound good on paper, like No Child Left Behind, but implementing it is a completely different thing, and it's obvious these people have not actually been a teacher in the classroom.
Right. So I teach government. Obviously, current events are a very big part of my class, and when there's something going on, I grab it and we talk about it. The way it sounds like, I got to put all my sources on the internet about a year in advance. How do I do that with newspapers, videos that, the president has said, or debates, or presidential debates when they come around? It's ridiculous, but it's also truthfully, we're going to put it on the internet. No one's going to really look at it. It's a lot of hoopla to say.
Some people will, but
very few.
I just feel like I feel like, and this is not necessarily Kim Reynolds in Iowa, I think this is nationwide, people are putting a lot more work on your desk and not allowing you to just actually teach the kids.
Right, and they're saying...
And they're not taking away things. They're adding more and not taking things away.
Yeah, that's definitely the process with teaching.
And you've always said that it's not the pay that bothers you, because you going into teaching, you pretty much know what the pay is going to be. It's not the pay that bothers you. It's that they keep giving you
Yeah.
more work to do.
The pay scale's fine.
Trying to
You
reinvent
don't
the
go into
wheel.
education for money, and I know that's controversial. Some teachers, want more pay, less, but whatever. I always tell people I don't get paid too much, but I don't get paid too little either. It's about right. But I also know pay in Iowa. You can find that out pretty easy from every district's different, but when going in until 30 years out, you can find people's pay scales. So if you're angry about the pay, that's on you. Now that's super. Probably a lot of
Well,
teachers
that's
can
true,
make it, but
though. I mean, it's
when
not a surprise.
when you interview, they will give you pay scale, and you can see it. It doesn't usually go down; it does go up, but you get to see it. And if you agree that I'm going to be a teacher now, and you can see the next 10 years pay scale, and you're going to complain in year 3 because it's not enough, that's on you. So that's and I say that to teachers. Not a lot of them are happy about me when saying that. But it isn't the pay. It is the amount of work that we're asked to do. The problems to solve. I teach history, so I'm supposed to teach, the standards, benchmarks of history, but I'm also taught to teach, personal skills or, soft skills or reading literacy. And I mean, there's so much that goes into teaching, and, we're asked all the time indirectly, but we have to solve the world's problems.
Teachers,
that we're asked to solve the world's problems, and the liberals kick us when we're down, the Republican or the conservatives kick us when we're down. I mean, really, we in college, I remember reading a book. It's called the Imperfect Panacea, if I remember right. Is just education's easy to point your finger at and say we have to fix that. So politicians always point the fingers at us, and it has to be fixed, and it gets to be old pretty quick.
Yeah.
Real fast.
So the last question I have for today, I think this has actually been really fun, is what would you tell yourself in 1994? If you knew then what you know now, what would you tell yourself as a new teacher?
Invest in Amazon, Google, Apple.
Well, you could have told yourself if you weren't a teacher, but specifically a teacher.
It's been a great ride. I got about 5 years left-ish.
And it's been fun to have our kids in your
class. And it's been fun to have the kids in the class. I've enjoyed teaching.
And getting to know your kids' friends even more.
Right? I can just tell my students this. Someone asked it just literally might have been a day or two ago about teaching, and do I enjoy it still? And I said, I love teaching. I still to this day love teaching. I hate education. Which means inside the classroom I enjoy everything that goes on. Outside the classroom I'm not a big fan of. And it goes for a lot of things. I talk about a book I read back in college. It says The View from Officers Row is about the American Revolution. But I've always used the tagline View from Teachers Row and how I see society through my lens. It's obviously specifically my lens, but there's a lot of things that we can improve on in education. And someone asked me, actually a politician asked me, a state politician from Iowa called me about something once, and we were talking, and he goes, if I gave you the magic wand and you could wave it and get one wish for education, what would it be? That is a fantastic question. And I didn't really have an answer to him. I did come up with basically a thing. If you just let me teach kids, I'll be good. But if I have to teach standards, benchmarks, if I have to teach, that's what I mean. I teach kids. I love teaching children and talking and having adult conversations with them. What I mean by that is treat them like a human being, not adult the way the word sounds, but teaching and talking and that they're conversing and their opinion is as important as mine. Now, mine is not.
But they have a voice, they have a value.
Right. That their opinion is not less or more than mine. I may have more knowledge than them, but that's what I enjoy, and that's what I think can make education important, but so many people cross the line, and I probably have too at times. Let's not kid ourselves.
I will say that I don't know as a student if I would have raised my hand and volunteered a lot of answers in his classroom, and that's because I wasn't super knowledgeable about history and government, because he's really good at, okay, so a kid answers a question and then he goes further and delves even further. And I would be afraid as a student. You should do that as a teacher. I think because it's about critical thinking. They shouldn't just have on the surface. There should be reasons why they have this opinion. And you ask people to back their opinions up and back their thoughts up and their views and ideas. And I think that's fantastic. And I think every student or every teacher should challenge their students like that. I don't think that's done enough. Obviously, as in elementary, it might be not as in depth. And as you get older, it shouldn't, definitely in college. But he is so good at critical thinking. I think I would have kind of not spoken a lot because I didn't feel like I was very knowledgeable.
I did have one parent. This has to be 15 years ago, if not longer. I did have one parent. I think I've told you the story where she asked for a meeting with me and her daughter, and we sat there, and she wanted she was speaking for her daughter, saying her daughter doesn't like to be questioned on her answers and judgment, that she feels confident and doesn't like to be challenged. That, you know, it's just something like that. And I remember reading her one of her papers like a week or two later, and I put a B+ on it, and I was waiting for her. It was an A paper, but I put a B+ on it. I was waiting for her mom and her to say, "Why did I get a B+?" And I was going to say back, "I don't like my decisions to be judged. I just know the right answer," and neither one said anything to me, so I had to go back and change it to an A. But I was trying to set it up for a point, to make a point, and neither one balked on it.
Interesting.
So
I mean, yeah,
I did change it.
that's really interesting. That would have been hard. So did you say anything in the
I think I
meeting?
might have mentioned to her about the grade, but no, I didn't. I didn't get into this whole argument. A little bit I did, about just my philosophy, but her mom was very.
Yeah, because I think any parent should want their kid, you know, to have a better education and I mean, you have to challenge them and not to not have your kid challenged. I mean, obviously there's some, you know, IEPs or things like that, but it just sounded like a personal preference to me. But all right, so that went by really fast, 16 minutes already. So we both can talk a lot.
Kind of what we do.
But anyway, I think this was really fun. We'll have to do this more. And next time, I don't want to actually. I think it's better on the fly because I ask him a lot of questions when we're at home. I mean, this is more about education, but I ask him a lot of questions about America and history, and he doesn't have any like I'm not saying, "Hey, I'm going to ask you about this," so get knowledgeable about it. And so I think we should have, and I'll say when we have those conversations at home, I'm like, "Oh, this would have been a great YouTube thing." So I might have to do this more often to him, and just please give him a little bit of grace that it's not like he's prepped for this. Like, no. It's not like he's being asked on the news. You know, it's not like CNN or NBC's asking the political or historical analysis to come in and, you know, analysts to talk about things. So it's just us talking on the fly.
Just chop it up, cut it up, get nice little clips and say, "This teacher said this," and get me fired.
So I'm Party of Logic on TikTok. Your View from Teachers Row. He hasn't put a lot of videos up lately just because he's been super busy. And certainly after he graduates.
It'll take me about 32 years, but I plan on graduating from high school.
When he retires, if he still has it, his TikTok is still around. His channel will definitely be on
more opinionated.
Yeah, be on fire. So stay tuned. So Party of Logic out.